What's up, everyone? I'm Tamara, and welcome to Tam's Like Advice. Today, I'm going to do an ENFJ life, which is where I like to kind of talk about some things that are going on, get a little bit more personal about my thought process. Right now, it is like 4 something in the morning, and I just woke up. Why not talk to you guys? Someone said something to me yesterday that just kind of shook me a little bit. The country that they're from, that people may think that, oh, they're treated very well, even though, the word starts with a C, the type of country that it is. So everything is regimented and controlled. And they said people get treated like dirt. No one cares about them at all. And he was saying that's why he has PTSD. I think he has more complex PTSD. And it just made me sad that we're all human beings, and there are some human beings that want power and control over other human beings, even if it means degrading them, making them live a life that is just inhumane and difficult and uncaring, and you're less than a crumb. I mean, can you put yourself in someone else's shoes for just a moment to be treated like you are nothing? Imagine if that was you, whether it was by a spouse, a friend, a coworker, a country. Adlerian theory talks about the basic need of humans to just belong, to just feel cared about, to be wanted, to be important, to be valued. Anything less than that is inhumane, and I have a problem with that. And that's why I wrote my book on narcissism, because I felt like we need to educate everybody. Everybody needs to be aware of people who build themselves up by putting other people down. And that's not cool. What percentage of people actually get to the point where they can put self aside for the sake of community, for humanity, where it's not just all about me, me, me? I read somewhere that there's an extremely tiny percentage of people who reach the height of putting themselves above themselves for the good of humanity. And there have been people in our lifetimes or in our world who have done that. Martin Luther King could be someone who did that. That would sort of be an example of your sacrificing your life for the sake of everyone else's, for humanity, for equality, for standing up for what's right. How many of us, and you don't even have to do it on that grand of a scale, but just tapping into your conscientiousness. I work on that all the time, and I feel like I've come a long way, because we can all struggle with narcissism to a certain degree. I mean, we might all have little bite-sized pieces of it. I have seen it in myself, and I have learned to work on it, like controlling my temper. Even when I feel like yelling at somebody, just dialing that down. It's not okay to make somebody feel bad just because I feel anxious or frustrated. Just taking myself out of this is how I feel and looking at an innocent kid who can't help themselves. Like, maybe they are mentally challenged in some way. They can't help it. So maybe they're doing some things that are frustrating, but taking yourself down to the basic level, looking into somebody's eyes who's hurting. When in life have you put yourself aside? And we live in a me, me, me society. If a crisis happens anywhere in the world, in or even in the United States, who does the world Americans look to come to the rescue, to rescue them in some way? Americans do that all the time, so we can be selfless in a capacity of when it comes to acts of service, helping people when they're in crisis. What can we do to help? How can we use our money, our resources? We do that all the time. We could probably do it more. People are going to step up and step in, and that says a lot. So we are great at that in one capacity. But are there other ways that we can be better? And right now we're in a Instagram society where it's like, look at me, look how pretty I am, look at what I can do. I want to be popular. I want to be famous. But can we put our own selfish desires and needs and wants aside for someone else? And I see, we all have deficits, including me, of course, me. I mean, there are areas of my life when I feel deeply insecure. Can I put those insecurities aside for the sake of someone else, so that someone else can feel happy, so that someone else can have their needs met for a moment? Can we do that? I see a lot of selfishness in a lot of people, but this is what I want. I'm fighting to get my way. I'm fighting to be on top, even if it means placing you on the bottom, pushing you to the side, disregarding your needs. What about all our needs? If we all need a pencil and you take them all because I don't want to run out of pencils. I'm tired of running out of pencils. Well, I need my department to be okay. So if that means that your department goes without, too bad, so sad, as long as my needs and our needs are getting met. And it's like, well, why don't we ration that out and make sure that everyone fairly gets what they need? But then there have been some places in the world that have taken that equality to an extreme, so that now it's still about power. Everyone gets an equal amount of every single thing. Every household is equal. And that has turned into a power position for some people. So what also gets in the way of can we put aside who we are for the sake of everyone else? Just my ENFJ thoughts. What gets in the way of us looking at the greater good versus the me syndrome is narcissism. If you were to be like 100% selfless, well, now the vultures are going to sweep in. So it's like you always have to be in self-preservation mode too, where you're protecting yourself. And is that a form of narcissism where it's like, I am so 100% humanitarian? Who is that for? Is it for everyone else, or is that for you, for your own accolades? And will you be severely taken advantage of if you give, and you never, ever take? You never put yourself first. So it's like this seesaw. It's like a seesaw. So can we ever reach that point that I was reading about, that they say a super small percentage of people reach? Like Mother Teresa. She would be somebody that I would... My TV has just gone out and it's dark outside. I think one way to reach the level of compassion that I'm talking about is by being motivated and inspired by the compassion of other people. I was working with a couple of guys at different points with special needs kid. To see the compassion of these men was so inspiring. This little boy was difficult to understand, and one of them actually had a conversation with him without understanding most of what he was saying. And everyone wants to feel heard and understood. So you could see his behavior de-escalate because someone is listening to me, someone is talking to me, someone is trying to figure out what it is that I need, what it is that I want. They're taking the time. And by the end, they were buddies. Just that level of compassion. And sometimes people look at men like, especially when you understand Myers-Briggs and you understand the thinking preference and feeling preference, sometimes people will say, well, men are cold and, they're thinkers, and that takes away some of their feeling and their compassion because they're going to be objective about things. I might have to fire you. To see these thinking men show such great compassion was not only touching, but it taught me to deepen my compassion. Part of a lack of compassion can be, sometimes you don't feel well, or you haven't had enough sleep, or you're hungry, or you got a million things on your mind. I remember a nun would have people to draw 25 of the most creative pictures that they could draw, artists. And after number 25, they were like, I can't think of anything else to draw. And she would tell them, but that's when creativity begins. So I say that to say that we need to push ourselves beyond what we think our capacity is. And that doesn't mean to not look out for yourself or do self-care, but I would challenge anyone listening, how much deeper can your compassion go? Can you push it further than you think you can? Can you come out of your own comfort zone for the sake of humanity? And I think if we can all do that just a little bit, we could make the world such a better place. So check out my book, The Workplace Narcissist. It's about narcissism, the opposite of what I'm talking about today. And maybe you can find some compassion for a narcissist. Anyway, friends, thanks for hanging with me, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.